In Tokyo in 2013, an underperforming salaryman is fired by his supervisor, who then pushes said supervisor in front of a moving train. As the supervisor falls onto the tracks, time stops and he hears the words of a self-proclaimed God coming from the people at the station, demanding the supervisor acknowledge him as God. The supervisor asserts his opinion that the being is not God and names it Being X. Being X comes to the conclusion that the salaryman lacks faith in him because he does not live in circumstances that would require him to have faith, and decides to reincarnate the unrepentant supervisor in an alternate 1913-era Europe, where he would potentially face enough troubles that he would have no choice but to have faith in Being X. Tanya grows up in a poorly funded orphanage in Buran, where it is discovered by routine tests that she has an exceedingly high magical aptitude. Tanya decides to enlist in the Imperial Army, where she believes that she would fare better than as an orphan in wartime. She performs well and is entrusted with training new cadets at a military academy, but is ruthless and unforgiving to her students, much to Rirujin's horror. In 1923, a 9-year-old Tanya is operating as an artillery observer at the Northern Theater Force garrison during the initial invasion of the Empire by the Entente. Lieutenant Colonel Anson Su of the Entente leads a company of the 5th Aerial Mage Battalion after Tanya, who is ordered to stay and delay them, which Tanya does so at great injury to herself. Later, back at garrison headquarters, Tanya is awarded the Silver Wings Assault Badge and hopes she isn't sent to the front lines. Instead, she is dressed up and lauded as a hero of the Empire. After recovering from her injuries, Tanya is assigned to the Tactical Instructor Squad away from the front, to her great relief. She tests a new type of computation jewel, a device necessary for mages to perform magic, the Elenium Type 95, but this proves to be as dangerous as fighting on the front lines due to the extreme instability of the Type 95. Chief Development Engineer Adelheid von Schugel pushes her to her limits, but is unable to make the Type 95 sufficiently stable. After criticizing the technology, she requests a transfer which is approved, and the project is frozen. That night, Being X animates a Nutcracker doll and accuses Tanya of not having developed any faith or insight, but Tanya disagrees with Being X and destroys the toy. She wakes up the next day and assumes it was a dream, but sees a paper with Deus Lo Vult, God wills it, written on her bedside. Tanya participates in one more experiment, and just as the Type 95 is about to explode, Being X performs a miracle and stabilizes the jewel to prove his power to Tanya. As a result, the Type 95 is now usable only to Tanya, and greatly amplifies her power when used, on the condition that she prays to Being X. She views this as a curse. The next year, Tanya is again sent to the front, eventually leading to the events of Episode 1. Headquarters decides to send her to officer training, and she recommends Victoria for officer training as well. They both prepare to return to Buran for officer training. Meanwhile, Headquarters realizes the necessity of a rapid response unit in the Imperial Army. 6 months after leaving the front lines, Tanya is still training to be an officer at a military academy and is doing well at her studies. She meets General Zetur in the Academy's library, and he asks for her opinion on the war. She predicts that it will become a world war and outlines a strategy for the Empire, using the firepower and agility of mages to minimize military losses. He is impressed by her battle knowledge and ideas and asks for a report, which she sees as an opportunity for career advancement. Later, Tanya meets Captain Ugger, one of her Academy rivals, in a cafe. Ugger reveals to Tanya that he is more concerned about his family than the war and of the future impact the war will have on his daughter, who he fears may one day be forced to fight. Tanya is able to emotionally manipulate him to drop out of Academy in exchange for a safer line of work, securing her position as one of the elite students at the Academy. Zetur passes Tanya's plan to General Kurt von Rudersdorf. At a conference held at the Imperial Strategic Headquarters, Zetur tables Tanya's plan for a rapid response mage battalion, which is accepted. At the Western Theater garrison, Rirujin is furious when he learns that Tanya's plan has been implemented with her in command of the Rapid Reaction Force. Tanya is invited to dinner with the colonel, where she is put in charge of a new 48-strong Rapid Response Mage battalion and will be promoted to the rank of captain. Much to her horror, This will actually be more dangerous than fighting on the front lines. She tries to find ways to delay the implementation of the battalion, especially after a large number of applications for the battalion are received, but a newly promoted Victoria is assigned to assist her, thus preventing Tanya from further delaying the formation of the battalion. Tanya holds a test to decide whether or not the mages who have sent in the applications are worthy of joining the new battalion, but most fail, resulting in a low recruitment rate, leading to her superiors complaining that her standards are set too high. Tanya accepts this compromise to accept more lower standard mages and declares that she will bring all the mages to an acceptable standard in just a month. She is granted free rein on how to go about it. She holds a grueling training regime, with many nearly dying, which she hopes would deter them from further training, but the mages are instead frightened that dropping out will incur even worse punishment and decide to continue. Some are even inspired to meet her lofty standards. Within a month, they have been successfully transformed into skilled soldiers, even by Tanya's standards. She then receives instructions to go with her battalion, named the 203rd Aerial Mage Battalion, or Pixie Battalion, to the Grand Duchy of Dacia, which has mobilized its troops and crossed imperial borders. There, the first battle the 203rd encounters is totally in their favor. The Dacians have no mages and still use techniques for outdated forms of warfare, even lacking the capability for the most basic of anti-aircraft operations. The Dacian attack is repulsed with ease by the elite 203rd, resulting in massive Dacian casualties. Tanya commands the 203rd to follow her to the Dacian capital to test their combat prowess, leaving the remainder of the Dacian invasion force to regular imperial forces. There, they locate the Republic-backed Carbelius arms factory that is undefended from aerial attack. Tanya orders the 203rd to attack it, but in accordance with international law, they can only destroy the factory if they have declared their intentions in advance, allowing for armed retaliation. This would give away the 203RD's surprise advantage. However, Tanya uses a childlike voice to broadcast her intentions to destroy the factory over a radio, which is dismissed by factory workers as a harmless child's prank, allowing the 203rd to completely destroy the factory. Headquarters concludes that Imperial troops should be able to completely occupy Dacia by winter and turns their attention to the fact that the Empire is still fighting on two fronts, against the Entente and the Republic. They decide to focus their efforts on destroying the Entente first, but are worried that there will not be sufficient supplies to do so, with there only being enough to last the Imperial army through winter. Finally, an order is sent for the 203rd to transfer to Norden against the Entente. Later, Tanya and Victoria discuss the possibility of the Entente being allied to the Republic and/or the Allied Kingdom, analogous to the United Kingdom, which is later shown to be true. At Norden, Viper Battalion fights against attacking Entente forces, but faces heavy losses. The 203rd comes in just in time to rescue Viper Battalion and to launch a counterattack. When offered to be reinforced by additional Imperial Army units, Tanya turns down the offer to create a reputation for the 203rd. She chooses to go after enemy bombers, leaving the rest of the 203rd to carry out the attack. After downing a flight of bombers and landing to look for survivors, Being X once again stops time and animates a dead Entente soldier and asks Tanya how it feels to fight a war against the whole world. Tanya shoots Being X's avatar down and later eradicates a hidden Allied Kingdom observation post that was gathering data on her. At Paris, Lieutenant Colonel Zevran Bayantot informs General Pierre-Michel Lugo of the failure of the Entente's attacks and of Republican mage casualties, advising him to refrain from sending more Republican mages to assist the Entente. In the Entente Ministry of Defense, it is revealed that Anson Su has been promoted to colonel, but is worried about dying and leaving his wife and daughter, Mary Sue, behind. And that's the partial story of The Saga of Tanya the Devil. A man who punished by the god for not believing him and bring him to the war era as a child. Hey guys, if you like this video, please press that like button, and if you're not a subscriber, please consider to push that subscribe button for my channel. There are more good anime summaries coming just for you, so click that notification bell too. Thank you so much for being here. Till next time, see ya.